Hello queens, angels, and goddesses. Welcome back to my channel. Warning: this contains boy love, and if you don't like it then please get off my channel. Water pistol. Grinning face with cowboy hat. Kageyama Tobio hated his job. At the moment he was waiting outside of the theater, broom and dustpan in hand, so he could clean up after all of those who had just seen the movie. Except that seemed to be impossible due to several groups of people still sitting in the theater bawling their eyes out over the film they had all just seen. Marley and me? Even after all this time, he still wasn't used to watching people cry over the films they had watched. Earlier that same year, the movie Wall-E had been released and children would come out crying, though he was confused as to why. Another horrible experience had been when Twilight had came out the month before. Groups of teenagers would come in and out of the movie crying over how much they loved it, and Kageyama didn't see the appeal. Now was no different in regards to people getting emotional, though there wasn't just teenage girls, but people of all ages. He looked down at his watch and saw that the movie had ended nearly 10 minutes ago and he was still waiting for people to leave. When will they leave? I have other theaters to clean. In the middle of tapping his foot, a large group people had walked out of the theater. Finally, every person walking out had bloodshot eyes and tissues in their hand. He hoped the floors weren't completely covered tissues. Just the thought of a messy floor disgusted him. When the last person exited through the door he walked into the theater. The movie had stopped playing but there was still noise. Kageyama looked around to find the source and saw one person still sitting in the farthest corner of the theater. He started walking to where the other was so he could tell him to please leave, but he stopped in his tracks when he got a better look at the guy's appearance. Kageyama couldn't tell his exact height because he was sitting, but he could see that he was around the same height as him and had a solid build. His eyes were covered by his hand, but Kageyama assumed he was a bit older, since he could see that he had a beard. When the man moved his hand all of Kageyama's fear left, because this supposedly intimidating man was crying his eyes out. He was able to get a complete look at his face and he could see that his cheeks were tear-stained and eyes red even in the lower lighting. Next to him was an empty box of tissues. A few pieces of tissues had fallen to the floor. Even though Kageyama no longer felt scared of this guy, he didn't speak. He wasn't the most compassionate person and didn't know how to deal with those who cried. It made him uncomfortable. As much as he didn't want to talk to this guy while he was in this emotional state, he needed to do his job and that meant clearing the theater so he could clean. How do I tell this guy to leave? He didn't want to be rude, considering that's how he lost his last job. Although he still didn't exactly regret yelling at some 20-year-old babysitter who just sat on the phone while the kids they were watching were making a mess. Telling them to get off the goddamn phone and stop these brats from making a fucking mess was completely plausible in his mind. But this time he wouldn't yell, unless it got to that point. He started off quiet, not wanting to scare the guy. Movie's over and we have to start cleaning. So could you? He trailed off when the teary-eyed man looked up. I'm sorry, what was that? The man asked as he wiped away some of the tears on his face. The movie ended, he responded slowly, and I need to start cleaning up. And I wasn't going to start until everyone had left, so. He motioned towards the door with his cleaning supplies in hand, hoping the other would realize he had to go. Sorry, the man yelled as he shot up from his seat. I'll be leaving now. It's no problem. The taller man didn't walk away though like Kageyama had expected. Instead he looked down at his seat and started to rub his neck. I made a mess with my tissues. Let me help you pick them up at least. He leaned down and started to clean the trash scattered across the floor. No, you don't have to. It's my job, Kageyama protested. It's fine, I made the mess and I've been holding you back from cleaning. The least I could do is help. Oh, well thanks, Kageyama muttered out. He then turned to clean up some of the trash left in the same aisle. He was sweeping up the fallen trash when the man spoke up and startled him a bit. I'm Asame, by the way. Asame Asahi. Kageyama looked over to him confused. He wasn't expecting him to try and make conversation. Oh, well, I'm Kageyama. It's nice to meet you, he answered, not really sure what else to say to the other. When Asame was done cleaning up he walked over to the trash and threw away the tissues. He made his way over to Kageyama and tapped his shoulder to get his attention. At the feeling of the other's hand he quickly turned around and faced the brown-haired man. Was there anything else you needed, Asami? He questioned. I finished picking up the corner and was wondering if there was anything else I could help with. He had soft smile on his face when he asked. Oh no thank you, you shouldn't have to clean up. It's what I'm here for. But thanks for helping me with that corner. I don't mind helping, he offered. Kageyama was losing the will to refuse since the offer to get help sounded really good and he seemed eager to assist. He gave in and accepted the other's offer for help. He ended up asking him to throw away the leftover soda cups, since that didn't require him picking up things off of the floor. In the middle of cleaning, Asahi started up another conversation. Do you usually get a lot of people who stay after and cry over movies? Yeah, we do though it's not usually, he stopped. Guys like me? He offered with a laugh. Yeah, no offense, it's usually little kids or teenage girls, he answered, remembering the times when he had people come out of the theater crying their eyes out. Those were his least favorite moments while working at his job. None taken. A lot of people don't expect me to watch sad movies and cry, but I do. Though one of my friends likes to laugh at me for it. He looked away from Kageyama but he didn't seem upset. He turned back to the worker and asked another question. What movies do you like? Are you a fan of dramas and sad genres? Not really. I guess I don't see the appeal. Why would you watch something sad on purpose? Asami was quiet for a moment, seeming to really think about his answer. Well, I can't speak for everyone, but maybe it's just a chance to let it out. And the movies aren't entirely gloomy. There are a lot of happy moments in between. I guess, but doesn't it still hurt to watch an unhappy ending? Well yeah it does, but I don't know how to describe it, but they're not as bad as you think. He added a smile as to try and reassure Kageyama, but he still didn't believe it. It's not like it matters, I don't watch those types of movies anyways, he said with a sort of harsh tone. You should, you might find one you like. His voice was nervous, taken aback by Kageyama's response. I really enjoyed the one I just watched and there are plenty of other great movies in the same genre out there, too. Well, I wouldn't want to watch one by myself. It seems like that would just make it worse. You could watch it with someone else if you think it would make you feel better. Kageyama didn't answer to that. Instead he thought about it. Watch a film with someone? He didn't really have anyone that he wanted to watch one with. Not my parents. I'd feel like I'm 12. He didn't think he had any friends that would be willing to go with him, and if anything he felt they'd laugh at him. How about? Do you want to watch one with me? Kageyama asked hesitantly. When he turned to face the other, he found Asahi was staring at him with wide eyes. Kageyama couldn't be sure because of the man's tanned skin, but it almost appeared that he had a blush on his face. The heat rose to Kageyama's face as well and he turned away. I mean you don't have to if you don't want to, it was just a suggestion. The guy still hadn't spoken and that made Kageyama nervous. He was prepared to walk out of the theater and leave the guy alone to avoid being rejected when Asahi finally answered. That would be great. It sounds fun, he answered, finally breaking the silence. He was just as nervous as Kageyama was, rubbing his neck and avoiding eye contact, though he had a smile on his face. Kageyama breathed a sigh of relief, glad the other didn't say no and wasn't creeped out by him asking. Well I'm good, he said stiffly. It's a date then. The grin on Asami's face made Kageyama's blush darken. I'm free on Saturday. If you are too, we can go then or whenever you're free. Saturday is perfect. Kageyama leaves work that night in a wonderful mood, excited for the upcoming weekend. Warning: this fanfiction does not belong to me, neither does the fan art. Credits to the original artist and author to the fan art and the fanfiction. Haikyuu does not belong to me either. Well, bye children, smiling face with hearts.